Welcome back to another edition of Real Recognizes Real, where I am your host, College Cottrell. And this week we got Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers film study. And as usual, we're going to go into the pros and cons. We're going to give you his NFL player comparison. And then we're going to dive into three games from this past season where Eli was able to showcase what kind of talent that he is. Now, the fun thing with this one is that Eli is obviously a big time prospect, but actually being able to see him compete in some of the drills at the combine and seeing his athleticism firsthand there was something that made this breakdown a little bit more fun, and just seeing the things that translate over from those combine tests to the actual on-field production was something that was pretty cool to see. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into some of the pros and cons here. And one of the first things that you notice right away with Eli is that he does an excellent job of picking up yards after the catch. So he's one of those guys where you put the ball in his hands and you need a few extra yardage after the actual catch itself there. He's one of those guys that absolutely can make that happen. And I think that kind of leads us right into, the next pro with him is that, when he gets the ball in his hands, he is explosive. Throughout his career, from Mexico State to Vanderbilt, he had 58 career catches of 15 yards or more. And I think that's absolutely incredible, especially from that tight end position there. So it's more than just, being the reliable hands or, just picking up the first down or just doing your job there. He can absolutely change the, explosiveness of your offense. And so I think that's a major positive there for him. And, just with that said there as well, we talk about him being a great athlete. And I think a lot of what goes into that, and the nice thing is that you can use him in so many different ways, whether it be screen plays to him specifically. Vanderbilt ran some shovel passes to him, and cool thing too is that he was recruited originally as a quarterback, and so he's a former quarterback that ultimately started off his career at Texas A&M there. So you would see that Vanderbilt drew up some trick plays, trying to get him to throw the ball and things like that. So you can use him just in a multitude of different areas there. And I think that does make him special, in addition to, of course, the traditional stuff that you can have him run and, your drags, your digs, your, verticals, things like that. So very versatile with how you can use him. And I think that's going to be a big part because you're going to have a plan with him, because this will lead us right over into our cons. Eli is very non-traditional. Most tight ends, even if they are a receiving tight end, they know what it's like to put their hand in the dirt. Well, with Eli, he's done it before. Like there's film of him doing it, but I would say probably 90% of the time, he's not sticking his hand in the dirt. Sometimes in a 2-point stance, other times he's actually split out wide like a wide receiver. So very non-traditional, when it comes to the tight end position there. And then just moving off of that there, he is a receiving tight end. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Let's make no bones about it. He's a receiving tight end. And so it was noticeable to me, at least, that he had a hard time of sustaining blocks. And, even other times where it was obvious run situations, I oftentimes saw Vanderbilt just took him off the field completely there. So with him being as great of a talent that he is in terms of catching the ball, I do think he's ultimately going to be a day 2 pick. But I do think these are things that you really have to think about and have a deliberate plan as far as how you're going to put him on the field to be successful within your offense there. And then the last thing I did want to point out here as well is that, usually Eli Stowers is very dependable with his hands, but you saw some uncharacteristic drops in 2025, and he did have 5 drops on the season, and ultimately his drop rate in 2025 was the highest that it had been in his entire career there. Now, do I think this will be a problem moving forward? Not really, because 5 is still a relatively low number there. I think his drop rate was at about 4.7 to 5%, somewhere around there. So still a low number, just not where you typically see that number being as far as a top prospect at the tight end position. But with that said, I do want to go ahead and get right on into his player comparison. And for me, it's not just the number here, but it's a lot of Jonnu Smith. And I said this, one of my first times watching him, it felt like it was Jonnu Smith was the perfect comparison there for him. And, frame wise, they're very similar, less than 10 pounds apart, less than 1 inch separates their height there. Obviously, Eli shows that he's a slightly better athlete there with the monstrous 45.5-inch vertical, which set the combine record for tight ends, and then the 4.51 in the 40, which is, damn impressive, especially at that tight end position. But to me, what makes this comparison so unique is that Jonnu Smith, if you've seen him play, is that teams throw screens to him, or they try to get the ball in his hands in space, and they want him to, pick up those yards after the catch there. So I just think that if you're looking at a player who is, non-traditional in a sense, like how Eli is, if you put him in a place like how Jonnu Smith has been, you saw he had a lot of success with the Dolphins, and then moving on over to Pittsburgh there as well, had some success there. And even times in Atlanta, when they had Kyle Pitts there as well, you would see that Jonnu Smith was the more favorite, tight end target there. So I do think I see a lot of similarities here. And, I think teams, if they want to try and figure out how you want to use Eli, I look no further than Jonnu Smith, because I think the similarities pop, right off the charts there, especially when you see them play. So with that said here, we are going to go ahead and get right on into the first game here. The 3 games that I got are all from 2025. You're going to have a game against Texas, you're going to have a game against Auburn, and you're going to have a game against Utah State. So with that said, we will start off with the Texas game here. And this first play is actually going to be where he shows off, his yards after catch ability. So you'll see him down here listed in the slot. Again, very common for him to not have his hand in the dirt and be split out wide and play in the slot and things like that. So let's take a look and see what ultimately happens here. So just a quick little 5-yard out, but breaks that first tackle, gets down the sideline, picks up a first down there. And again, I think that just is a great example of what he can do, where you don't have to be too creative in terms of getting the ball in his hands. He'll make it work with whatever he has out there in front of him. So again, just seeing it here from the end zone view, pretty simple concept here. It's going to be a roll to the left pretty much immediately, throw the little 5-yard out. You make one man miss, you go up the sideline, pick up some extra yardage there, and you move the sticks for your team. Now let's go ahead and move to 27-36, where this is going to be the second play where he's showing off that yard after catch ability here. And so we go right here again, lined up in the slot inside here. And one of Pavia's favorite targets. They played together at New Mexico. They played together here at Vandy. Throw it right up the seam. He's uncovered there, but you escape one tackle. You get into the end zone. What turns from a first down ultimately goes into a touchdown there. And it gives Vanderbilt some momentum going into halftime in this game here, because at this point they were down 24-3. So let's see it again here from the end zone view. You get a better look at it here, but he goes right up the seam and he is uncovered. So he doesn't do anything special necessarily to get open, but I think the thing to highlight here is the fact that, he has the ability to make men miss and, turn things from a first down. I mean, you got 4 guys around him, and I know obviously all 4 of them weren't trying to tackle him at that exact moment, but you got 4 guys around you, and what looks like it should be a first and goal situation, you're able to go ahead, punch it in for yourself, and I think that does give your team some momentum, especially going into halftime. Now we will go ahead and go to 29-23 in this one. Close enough here. So I believe you have Eli Stowers at the bottom of your screen here. Yep. All right. So we'll go back. All right. So he's listed bottom of your screen here. He's split out wide there and goes up the seam there. That seems like that should be a catch. In my mind, I don't know if this was formally considered one of the drops there, but when you're a Mackey Award-esque type player there, this is a play that you absolutely need to make. And when I think about, a first, a top 2 round, top 3 round tight end here, this is a play that needs to routinely happen. You need to be a safety blanket there, and ball is there and the defender's on his back, sure, but he had ample opportunity to clasp his hands on that one. And, I count that as a drop, because I think a guy of his talent should be able to, make make that kind of play there where you get both hands on the ball and the defender doesn't actually dislodge it. He's just close to you in proximity there. So then we are going to go on now. Just got a few more plays in this one. We'll go on to 43-44 here, where I think he does a great job of showing off his awareness of the situation and things of that nature here. 43-44. Perfect. So again, line up in the slot down here, bottom of your screen here. And let's take a look. Actually, he split up top. Goes to the sticks, out route, boom. Perfect route, gets to the sticks, very aware of where he needs to be at to make that play. And again, I pointed you in the wrong direction here. He's actually up top here. So he split out up top, knows exactly where he needs to be. You see the sticks. You see Texas is basically playing the sticks. All these guys are lined up right where those sticks needs to be. And he does a great job of, gaining leverage and creating enough space for Pavia to give him the ball in a window to ultimately pick up the first down here. So we'll let the play run here. Great job. Sells a little fake to the inside, gets outside leverage there, and gets the sticks and picks up a much needed first down in this one. So we'll see it again here from the end zone view. Not that it does it more justice here, but you'll get a chance to see it again here. Pavia puts him in motion. Again, roll out right to the right there. And it felt like this was the play all along because they knew that he'd have the ability to create that separation and ultimately pick up that first down in this situation. Now we will go to 46-20, where he shows you his ability to hit the big play. So again, lined up top here on the inside there. And let's take a look and see what happens. Inside, has the ability to go vertical, gets lost in the zone there. And again, doesn't necessarily do anything special, but he has the speed, he has the athleticism to take it to the crib there. And for a tight end, you definitely love to see that kind of speed there. 4.51. I mean, you got some receivers that are running, some elite receivers at that are running 4.51. So that's plenty speed. But you see Pavia sees him, gives him a great ball. You're not catching him with that much space there. It's just not going to happen. So big time play from Stowers again to continue that momentum for Vanderbilt. And they were right back in this thing after that touchdown. Now we would go ahead and go to the last play from this game here. 52 minutes even. Boom. So we'll go here. Let's see if we can locate where he's at. Looks like he's lined up top in the slot here. I believe that is him. And let's take a look and see what happens. So gets through clean. Yards after the catch, excuse me. Great play there. I think that just shows off, his athleticism again and uncovered. Yes, I 100% understand that, but pick up some yards there, moving the sticks. That's a first down. So I think that gives you a good gist of who Eli Stowers is there. We will go ahead and get going to the next game here, which is going to be against Auburn. Get it pulled up here for you guys shortly. Close out of that one. This pulled up here. Bang. All right, here we go. First play against Auburn. More yards after the catch here. You'll see the trend with Eli time and time again that this is what he does. So we'll go ahead, get back in the box here. Boom. Start it off. Let's see if we can locate him. Like always, in the slot down here. Up here, I should say. And let's take a look and see what happens. So boom, design play for him, picks up the first down there. Little pick play, I'd say. Let's look at it again here from the up top view. But yeah, give him a little pick play. You're running pick plays for your tight end. Pick up the first down there. Does a great job. Again, nothing special, but doing exactly what you need him to do to get the first down. And again, I think this just shows you that Vanderbilt was deliberate in terms of scheming up plays to put the ball in his hands because they know how electric he can be. Let's go ahead and go to 908 here, just showing off some of his versatility. Not sure what this play is, but we'll pick it up here. 908. Eli is up here. Put him in motion, and they run a shovel pass to him. Again, nothing special there, but a deliberate play design. They go to Eli to pick up the first down. This is a short yardage situation, and they put the ball in his hands. Just pick up enough yardage for us, follow your blockers, get downhill, and pick up the first down, and that's exactly what he did. We will go ahead and go to 1043 here, and you kind of see what I'm talking about when I say that he doesn't understand the nuances of being a online blocker. So go here, 1042. So you see him, no hand in the dirt, but he is up, on the line of scrimmage there. And let's take a look at it. This is a design run play. Take a look here. And he just chops his feet. Doesn't really do anything there. Doesn't get into the blocker. Doesn't get into, a defender there. Doesn't do anything. I would like to see him get at least a hat on somebody there. Even if the play doesn't necessarily come to you, you never know what might happen in this play. A running back may see a lane and is able to cut back and get to the outside over there, but I know there's no way that Vanderbilt coached him to do this here. It'd be one thing if he was trying to sell a route and, essentially act as if he's going out on a route to get the defender's eyes to go in one direction here, but he gets out of his stance right away, chops down like he's coming with the block, and then he ultimately doesn't there. So, I think that's an area for improvement from him for sure. Because, like I mentioned in weeks past, we talked about effort. I think effort can go a long way there, and it's just going to come with more reps and more experience. Or if you don't have him out there blocking, at least you know exactly what he is, and that's just not ultimately going to be his role. But definitely something I wanted to bring up here for you guys. Within the breakdown. But we will go ahead to 1811, where I got it charted as another big play. So see Eli slot down here. And he goes right up the seam. He made his money up the seam there, and that's a big time catch and it was really contested, if we're being honest. I mean, you see the the Auburn defender is right underneath this pass here, and he's trying to fight through the hands there. That's a great catch. And for him to not make that catch in the Texas game, but then come back and make it here in this game against Auburn, for me, that shows that he has the ability to do so. And that's why I kind of, wanted to point it out in the Auburn game, because he has the ability. Ability is not the question there. To me, it's just about, getting the consistency and making sure you bring down those plays, because he absolutely has the ability to do so. Next here, we will go to 1907, where I think he showed off, a great display of his hands there. So let's see where they got him lined up. I believe this is him at the bottom of the screen here. Yep, that should be him. See there, tight coverage, slight dig route, brings it in, even with the defender right there on his back. Again, I think that just shows you his ability. He's able to make these tough catches, and he's got a DB on him here. That is a small window. Pavi does a great job of getting the ball there, but yeah, strong hands and picks up another first down there for his team. And then we will go to the last play from this game, 23-10, where he shows off his ability to get some more yards after the catch. All right, let's see where they got him lined up here. He's going to be, I believe this is him lined up here inside. And let's see what they do. So just a simple little curl pattern. Breaks the first tackle. Picks up the extra yardage there and picks up another first down for the Commodore. So again, I think it's going to be better to see it actually from this angle here. So see here, quick hitter. Pavi does a great job recognizing that there's open space in the middle there. Eli goes right to the arm tackle, picks up the first down for the Commodores. And Yeah, I think that just again shows off his ability to create plays after the ball's ultimately in his hands there. And then now we will go to the final game from our film study here, and that's going to be against Utah State. And Utah State game is interesting because you see obviously he's game in and game out, I should say. You're going up against the SEC talent there. Um, So you get a good feel of what he can be. But this Utah State game, I think, was a good indicator of, some of the issues that he had, but then him turning around and kind of making that personal and, making up for it later down the line. And you'll see what I'm talking about here shortly, because I believe it's the last three plays of this specific game here. But with that said, we will start off at pretty early on in this game. This is going to be a negative here. It's going to be his blocking ability. So just like we saw in the previous game here, I don't think he actually touches anybody here. So you see Eli down there, inline blocker, goes like he's about to block, pretty much whiffs on that, and then still doesn't get his hands on anybody. Again, I understand that this doesn't necessarily come his way there, but for me, that's not the point, because you never know when guys are going to cut back or when, your block could be the one that springs somebody open there. So you give a feint block and then you try and go up to the safety and you never even get close to him. Again, I think that may potentially be an effort thing. It could be a thing where, he knows the play isn't going to his side, so he's not necessarily, trying to go make that play. He's just kind of going through the motions. But I definitely think it's something that needs to be talked about with him. We will go down to 14-19. Oops. Boom. Go here. Again, little 2-point stance here. He's actually right off of the line of scrimmage there. And I have this charted as stick awareness. So imagine he gets right where he needs to pick up the first down here, which is an underrated element. So understanding depth, getting right to the sticks there. Pavia sneaks the ball to him, and then he picks up, falls forward for an extra couple yards there, but clear and obvious first down here. So again, you see it right away here pretty much. He knows exactly where he needs to get to. And as soon as he gets there is when he turns around and Pavia is waiting on him to get there. And, he gets there, puts the ball right there, and again, picks up just a couple extra yardage after that for a Vanderbilt first down. Now we will go to 24:05. And this is probably the worst drop that I've seen from him. This one was wide open, no doubt about it, charted as a drop. And all right, we will see list down here and see where the play goes here. So right up the seam here, like we always see him, and he tries to get those yards after the catch before actually securing the ball in. So again, this is probably the worst one that you'll see from him, because this isn't the type of drops that you normally see there. And you definitely didn't see it in 2024 with him. So Pavia gives him a good ball, but he's trying to get upfield before he actually reels it in there. So again, something that you want to know with him, because the drops, I don't think they're going to be a problem. But you just kind of saw him more in 2025 than you did in years prior with Eli. And then we got just a couple more plays in this one before we go ahead and get out of here. And this is what I was kind of getting at with Eli. So this is back-to-back plays here. So you saw the drop that he just had. This one, he must have been angry after it, because basically the exact same play. He gets it. He breaks that first tackle, and he gets Vanderbilt down into the red zone. And so this ultimately really must have, pissed him off here. And Vanderbilt had the confidence to run it right back to him. Like I said, he reeled that in, broke that first tackle there. You're not getting him with the shoelace tackle there. You're going to actually have to bring some muscle to get him down to the ground here. So you saw that play, and then this is the play right after that big time, explosive play to get them into the red zone here. So he's uncovered here, and this has to be a blown assignment here from this Utah State team, because there is no way Eli, being as good as he is, that you give him a free release here right to the middle of the field. I mean, look at all this space here. You give a guy with this much talent, this much room to work, this is going to spell disaster for you every single time. But nonetheless, Vanderbilt calls his number yet again here. You see Pavia takes the snap, and right away he locates that empty space there. Again, you try and boom him, just get him to the ground without wrapping him up. Not going to be much you can do to actually get him to the ground there. And so he breaks that tackle and then gets into the end zone here. But again, easy slant there, breaks the easy tackle and gets into the end zone to basically put this game on ice for the Commodores there. So that is going to be it with our Eli Stowers film study here. Again, I think this is going to be an interesting prospect to see where he ultimately ends up at, because you will have to have a deliberate plan with him. You're not going to be able to just line him up as your traditional tight end, having him put his hand in the dirt. So I'm going to be curious to see where he ultimately goes there and see, how much value teams have in him. I think he has enough talent to be a second-round pick. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if he goes to, the third round or things like that, just because maybe the fit of teams who are drafting there in that position. But I definitely think he's a very interesting prospect and has the ability to, really change the trajectory of a team's offense there with that. So, but that's it for Eli. I do appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in, tapping in with me, and, going through this film study. Always appreciate the likes, the comments, the shares, all that good stuff. Next week, we probably will be going back to the defensive side of the ball here. I'm thinking that we're going to probably go the Mansour Delane route, but that's still to be determined here. And, next week is going to be April, so the ball is really going to be rolling, and we're going to be right around the corner from the NFL draft actually happening here. So, like I said, I think we're going to go defense next week. I'm leaning Delane, but could be someone else. Stay tuned for that. But again, appreciate you guys tapping in here with me, and look forward to breaking down some more film with you guys next week.